Hi, this is Alan Stout from the Visit Luzerne County podcast, and our guest on this episode of Next Stop is Steve Poremba, the general manager of Mohegan Arena. We're going to be talking about the history of the building. We're going to be talking about its relationship with the Penguins, some of the great concerts that have been there over the years, some of the great acts that come in all the time on a yearly basis, and some of the great shows, and his own personal love for helping produce live events. Next Stop, right now. Hi everyone, this is Alan Stout, Executive Director of Visit Luzerne County, and welcome to Next Stop, the Visit Luzerne County podcast. Here, each month, we'll be chatting with people from throughout Northeastern Pennsylvania that help make our region a fun place to visit. We record the podcast right here at our office, inside the historic train station in Wilkes-Barre, which served as the next stop for countless trains for more than 100 years. Our next stop with our podcast will always be with someone we think you'll find interesting. Enjoy. Hello everybody, Alan Stout, Executive Director of Visit Luzerne County, here with the latest edition of Next Stop, the Luzerne County podcast. And our guest here today is somebody that when we first launched this podcast 11 months ago, we came up with a list of people that we wanted to have on. And Steve Poremba, the general manager of the arena, of Mohegan Arena, was on that list. Mm-hmm. And like we always do with the podcast, though, we try to strategically time when the guests will be on to better serve the listeners and the viewers. And you're getting into your busy season. And so we figured what a better time to have you on now as you start to ramp up for the winter. So Steve, welcome to Next Stop.
Thank you, Alan, for having me. And yeah, we're ramping up. The season is underway. So happy to be here today and happy to be on the list of a lot of notable people in the area that make this county great.
We have a lot of very dedicated people to doing just that. And it's fun for us here on this podcast once a month or so to sit down with them and talk to them about what they do and how they go about their work and why they love doing it. You, I've known you for a long time. I mean, probably almost 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have to say that I was so happy for you 2 years ago to see you promoted to be the general manager of the arena. And I was very happy for you just a few months ago when this shows up in my mailbox at home. And this was you on the cover of The Bridge, which is the LCC, the Luzerne County Community College alumni magazine. And I have to tell you that even though I knew you for a long time, I learned some stuff about you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we get to that, Steve, so general manager for 2 years.
Yep.
And then prior to that, marketing director.
Yep.
And prior to that, you go back to even, as an intern working in the ticket office, right?
Yeah.
So how long have you been at the arena and how many roles have you had there?
Well, I've now been at the arena for 22 years, which is now more than half of my life has been spent at that facility. As you mentioned, I started off as a marketing intern. Actually, I started off as a box office ticket seller for about 3 months in October of 2003 before I became the marketing intern. I shared some of the internship role between the marketing department and the box office. Luckily for me, right after graduating from Misericordia University in summer of 2004, the gentleman that had the marketing assistant position at the time, you probably remember Jason Augustinucci. Mm-hmm. He was leaving the organization, take on a role in another company, and the position opened for marketing assistant. I was lucky enough to get that. I sometimes claim that the reason why I got that position was my knowledge of WWE wrestling at the time, and we had them coming up. So I got that position and never looked back. I was marketing assistant for a year, marketing coordinator for 4 years after that, director of marketing for, I think it was 17 years.
I worked with you a lot there.
Yeah,
when I was
and
at the newspaper.
Now GM, named GM in October of 2023, and still there today.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's funny how my mind works with the arena. because I have this quirky ability to remember shows and years. So you step into the arena right around the time of the Simon and Garfunkel concert.
That is correct. I was at the box office at the time for that show, and I mean, it was already sold out. One of the earliest memories I have is there were two older ladies that came in the box office, and they knew they couldn't get tickets, but they were in the box office just listening to them to rehearse, because they were there for a couple days. They rehearsed. And the Everly Brothers, who opened for Simon and Garfunkel, were on stage, and you couldn't see them. You could barely hear them. They stood in the box office for a half hour just listening to them rehearse. It was that big of a deal for them. And eventually we had to close the box office down because, you know, it was 4 o'clock, whatever time, and Simon and Garfunkel were going to be rehearsing shortly after that. But it was just amazing to see how big of an event that was, the reunion tour in 2003, that people were willing to just hang out in our box office lobby. And I'm just sitting there with them. I mean, my father listened to the Everly Brothers when I was a kid, so I knew the songs. I was singing along with Bye Bye Love and all those other ones.
Oh, yeah.
So
Wake Up Little Susie.
Yeah. I was intrigued just as much. And just seeing the joy on someone's face that had no chance of getting a ticket at that point. It wasn't like StubHub and all those things existed to sell those at that point.
Yeah, you could just go out in the market.
Yep.
But the thing about that, too, was they were heroes of, you know, the Simon and Garfunkel look up to the Everly Brothers. Mm-hmm. They obviously had a more successful career overall, you know, and so to take them out and say, you know, we want you to come out with us. Yeah. We're going to put you in front of 10,000 people, you know, whatever the capacity is at each, or 8,000 in Wilkes-Barre. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really nice gesture. The story I always heard about that show, and I know it's true because folks at the arena told me, and I think I may have talked to you about this, was Game 7 of the American League Championship Series between the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yes, it was.
And Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel are big New York baseball fans. At least Paul is, I know. He's at Yankee games all the time. Mm-hmm. And so this is a big deal, you know, winner goes the World Series, and it's happening tonight. And I had heard that they were frequently checking scores throughout the concert, like maybe asking their offstage sound, what's the score? And then at one point they were down in that office, down in the you know, underneath the arena backstage, the security office, watching some of it on a television set. Yeah. So.
It's amazing how often that happens.
People, you know?
We had Michael Bublé several years after that, and it was in this early summer, and the Vancouver Canucks were in the Stanley Cup Finals, and he actually had a TV brought side stage so that he could sit over there and watch anytime that he was. So he was obviously very well distracted that night. But
wow,
that's a common occurrence. And another short story for you, if you remember the Guns N' Roses event. Mm-hmm. Axl Rose didn't go on stage until after the Giants-Eagles game was done. So now it's 11:30 at night, and the opener had gone off like 2.5 hours earlier. So we've got all these people that are just waiting for Axl to take the stage. And I'm out on the floor at that point along with the promoter, and it's getting ugly. Like people are starting to boo.
He was known for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a story in New York where he held up a crowd because of a Knicks game or something. I saw the greatest Facebook reply to a post this week. Axl had a tantrum recently on stage. This was just within the last couple of days. And he kicked the drum set, and he was back, you know, and he stormed off or something. And this was a headline, you know, and somebody in the comments wrote, in the 90s we called this Tuesday. So I thought that was pretty funny. We're going to talk some more about some of the great artists that came in later, but I want to talk to you about your journey a little bit more, because I did read the LCC article, and it is a very funny story. Yeah. So for those that didn't read it, so you were originally interested in possibly going into science.
Yeah, I started off my college career, if you will, as wanting to be the next Joe Snedeker. I wanted to be the meteorologist. And quickly down that journey, I had some biology classes, and unfortunately, I'm very squeamish. And I think the first time I was dissecting a pig or something like that, and passed out in the class.
Oof.
My father, who's worked at LCC now for over 40 years, helped respond. He's in the security department. He helped respond to it. The professor at the time was Mr. Yeager. Unfortunately, he's passed away now. But he called for my dad to be there, and the ambulance had to come, and they took me out.
So you were really out.
I was really out. So I went to, I think it was Mercy in Nanticoke at the time, which no longer exists. Got revitalized there. Would go on to pass out in the class again. This time I would come to before I needed any assistance. But I think it was at that point that I realized you need to get out of the science field, get into something that's more your passion, that, maybe, you're pushed one way maybe in high school, but your passion might be into something else.
Right.
Like I was never I'm not going to go for trigonometry, all that kind of stuff. I was more of I always felt like I was a promoter type. I was always somebody that wanted to talk about events or put on events. But there's no degree for that, right? Until I go to a college fair at LCC, talking about the various other curriculums that are out there, and I go to Misericordia, and they're talking about this new curriculum, sport management. So obviously I'm intrigued. I'm a sports guy. I can't play sports for the world of me, but I love them. I watch everything from baseball, football, basketball. I wanted to be involved in everything. So you get to learn about the business side of that, and I'm intrigued at that point. So I changed my curriculum at LCC for my last semester to more business related. And that not having a sports focus wasn't all that interesting to me, but I knew that the curriculum at Misericordia would be more sports related with those, and going to that campus for the first time, going through that curriculum, at the time it was my junior year of college, I just fell in love with it. I knew that this is the passion that I have, whether it was going to be music or sports or anything in that field, that's what I wanted to do. And from there, it's history. I loved what I got into, got my internship in that field.
They placed you at the arena, right?
They did.
Misericordia for the internship, yeah.
Yep, internship there, and never left.
Isn't that great though? I mean, I tell people all the time, you find yourself in college sometimes. And it could not, I went to school to be a history teacher, and I learned my junior year, I had one professor who gave us like 11 term papers for one semester. And my classmates were freaking out, and I'm acing these papers, and I'm like, I like writing these papers. And that's when I realized I like to be a writer, just because I got a lot of history assignments one semester, and the light bulb goes off. And so, it could be something like, this is not for me, like passing out in science class.
Passing out in science class,
We're so lucky to have you there for all these years, and to have the arena. I'm going to talk to you about some of the entertainment that comes through every year, some of the great artists that have performed there. But I think before we get into that, we need to talk about your anchor tenant or occupant, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. They have been there since day one. Their inaugural season was '99, the same year the arena opened. And it's been really wonderful just from the outside to see how it has grown, to see the Toyota complex eventually become a big part of them, and offices there, and the practice rink, and kids having birthday parties there, and open skates, and seeing them become a part of the community in addition to hockey. Can you talk to us a little bit from your perspective? Now we did have Brian Coe on earlier this year to talk very specifically about the Penguins, but you're there side by side with them all the time. Talk about in your opinion, their importance to the arena and to this community.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just 40 dates on a calendar. They are we're the reason why the arena's here. I mean, honestly, that's the deal back in the day was, an AHL franchise is going to be offered to the Wilkes-Barre Scranton community, and with that, you guys just got to build the building. You got to figure out a way to finance it, where it's going. And that's what started the Arena Yes, Arena No campaigns. But there was always a hockey team involved in that. And to see where it's come all these years later, the team holds the AHL sellout record. I think it was the 9 consecutive years or 8 consecutive years. The community really embraced it. It didn't hurt that from day one. I mean, this is a blue collar, hardworking town that, might not have understood, offsides or what the different terminology was in hockey, but what they appreciated was a guy like Dennis Bonvie being on the ice, butting someone's nose. That's really expressed to the community. And when we were doing a documentary series somewhat about the arena, I had an opportunity to hear a story from Steve Brook, past chamber president. And he had mentioned that the AHL's president at the time was in attendance for the first game, and mentioned about the fans throwing beer or whatever like that. And Steve says to the AHL official, I apologize for our fans. This is, and the AHL official looks at him. He says, you know what? This is going to be a great hockey town. This is going to be great. And it really turned into that, again, the season ticket holder base that they've had for so many years, the level of play. The one thing that we're just missing is a Calder Cup. Hopefully, this year is the year. They're off to an undefeated start. So obviously great to see that out of the gate. The talent coming from Pittsburgh to Wilkes-Barre has always been great. With that said, sometimes you lose some of that talent to Pittsburgh, and that's just part of the relationship here. Yeah. They're going to grow as players. You can't just have them forever here.
Right.
But what it means to the community, I grew up in this area. I feel like before 1999, there was no real hockey allegiance in this area. You could have been a Flyers fan, you could have been a Devils fan, a Rangers fan, an Islanders fan. There was nothing really that planted their flag here in Northeast PA. But then when the Penguins came in, now they planted their flag. This was Pittsburgh Penguin country, and a lot of the fans you see going in there wearing the jersey of the Sidney Crosbys, the Evgeny Malkins, those players that have come through Pittsburgh, and if they've had, some of them have had their start here in Wilkes-Barre. Sidney Crosby's first game as a professional was right here in Wilkes-Barre. Right. Some of the players like Marc-Andre Fleury, Chris Letang, they all got their start here in Wilkes-Barre. So it's been a great breeding ground of great players, but with that has come a dedicated fan base that has turned this community around, given them another high quality professional franchise to follow beyond the baseball stadium.
Yeah, and it's a fun night out. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go up there on a cold January Friday night, and the holidays are over, and we're getting into that grind. I mean, it's great now too, yeah. October. But I mean, even in the dead of winter, yeah. when people tend to hermitize, yep. That's when I like to go, mm-hmm. because holidays are over, and you could get into the doldrums real easy, but you go up there and it's energetic and it's warm and everybody's jacked up and having so much fun. I'll tell you a Dennis Bonvie story that I told Brian when he was on a few months ago. So it's that inaugural season of '99, and it's early in the year, November or so. And the Times Leader at the time where I worked had a box for their advertisers. You entertain your clients. And once in a while they would open up to the staff. If you like to go to the game, we're opening it up. So I had gone to a game, had a great time, and then I was going back to another game, and I think it was probably maybe the very next homestand, because they hadn't played that many games. That's kind of an important part of the story. So I'm sitting there with Jerry Keller, the late great sports writer for the Times Leader who covered Penn State football. And it's only my second game, and the team is brand new, and we're sitting up there watching the game, and I see this guy skate out into the ice, and I turned to Jerry and I said, "This guy likes to fight." I didn't even know his name yet. And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Just watch, this guy likes to fight." Well, it was Dennis, and within 40 seconds he was going at it with somebody. Yeah. And I think that happened with everybody, as you were saying. You know, everybody picked up on that really
Yep.
quickly, and he became sort of a folk hero
Yep.
in town. And,
Absolutely.
And you know, I think he's in the Hall of Fame now, right?
He is he's in the Penguins Hall of Fame. He's also in the AHL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's terrific. Big part of the great, and you know, we love with the Visitors Bureau. We work with the Penguins. We sponsor their name change night every
Yep.
year. So we had a lot of fun with the UFOs and the tomatoes and, you know, whatever it will be this year. I guess
Yep.
we'll be hearing about that soon.
Yep.
Kyle, who produces our podcast and is on our weekend roundup, he's doing some work with the Penguins now. He'll be doing some previews on social media of their homestands. So we love the Penguins.
Yep.
You also, in addition to having those as regulars, you have these iconic events that come in every year and that people have literally sort of grown up on. And I'm off the top of my head, you know, Disney on Ice, I jotted a few down, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, the Monster Trucks, the Globetrotters. There's always a couple of WWE events a year. That now is not something, that is something that we now expect, you know, and there are people that pencil that in every year.
Yep.
How does the arena go about building a relationship with such iconic brands that they make it a regular stop every year? You know, TSO is coming at Christmas time. I mean, it's about 20 plus years now, right?
Yeah, we're hosting our 47th and 48th performances of Trans-Siberian Orchestra this year in our facility alone. Not to mention in 2000 when they were at the Kirby Center for 2 performances on their first real tour out as the group. But I think it's the success that they've had. You know, obviously, you know, these events have been consistent outside of the year, outside of the COVID year. They've been here, as you mentioned, every year. But the energy and the way that our venue has been perceived as safe in terms of getting the families to the facility, having that giant parking lot out there. You're not walking in downtown at the end of the night with, you know, your family that you might be a little afraid of, depending on which area you're in. But the success that they've had, it's been all these brands that you're mentioning, all have high quality product. So going to see a Disney on Ice, if you're not somebody that's able to go and travel to Florida to see Mickey and Minnie down there, coming to see Disney on Ice might be the closest that some people ever get to going on that experience. And the presentation that they give, the ability to see, you know, at any point, you know, 60, 70, 80 characters. And it's really become a family tradition. I mean, I went to see Disney on Ice when I took my girlfriend at the time to see Disney on Ice back in 2002. Little did I know at that point that I'd be still helping to put on the show 20 some years later, but it's the great quality of product and that people can expect that, and they can expect what they're going to get from the facility too. They know that it's a intimate atmosphere in the facility for any show that you're at, but you know what to expect with the Globetrotters, Disney on Ice, and because they've had such great success and this is a good family market, that's why we continue to see the TSOs, the Disney on Ices, the Monster Jams every year. And Monster Jam is one of those where not every market is open to them.
It's a lot of work for the venue.
It is. It's a ton of work. You know, not a lot of people know this, but the dirt from Monster Jam lives behind our building. It doesn't get trucked in from some other place.
Oh, you keep it there?
It's around the back of the building. Yeah.
I did not know that.
So it's there. We have a group that comes in. They'll put out the dirt. It's usually 75 to 100 truckloads of dirt that get laid out. Takes about a full, let's say 10 to 12 hours to build the track throughout the course of a day. And then they put on 4 shows, and it's an incredible experience to see the trucks up that close. You might be able to see them at a stadium, and they're going to be a little bit further away, but a show like Monster Jam provides you with the opportunity to go walk the track for certain shows and actually see them, get a picture taken with them. But that's the consistency. We've made a great relationship with these promoters that put these shows on. So the Feld Entertainments that do Disney on Ice and Monster Jam and did Ringling Brothers for many, many years, we've had a great partnership with them. The Harlem Globetrotters, same thing, great partnership over the years. And we have a relatively local promoter that's based out of Philadelphia. I know that you've probably worked with them too, for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. This market was one of the first markets they came to. The Kirby Center, they were embraced down there. We've had them every year since 2001, and the audience keeps coming to see them. And that's a show that grows every year. You know, you start off with just a basic stage show to now it is a production. It is laser beams, it's floating stages, it's pyro, which they've become known for. But it's not just coming out to hear, you know, the Christmas songs. It's coming out to see the major visual production. And it gets bigger and bigger every year, and it's incredible that we have to have a weight analysis on our roof system every year they come in, because they keep growing and growing to make sure the building can handle it.
I grew up listening to a lot of hard rock music when I was a teenager, and the the stage show was a big part of a lot of those bands. So us metal people sort of take pride in the success of TSO. We say, hey, we told you, it's cool.
Combining metal with Christmas, who would ever thought?
Exactly. You know, it's funny you talk about the monster trucks too. I took my son, and it wound up being a memorable night for us, because it was like February of 2020, and it was the last time that we were out for a year and a half.
Yep.
It was that monster truck show. The pandemic came just a few weeks later, but we had never been to one before. And, my son was, he's 16 now. So, he was about 11 or 10. Yeah, about 11. Yeah. And, hey, let's go. I got some tickets to the monster trucks. 11-year-old. Yeah, let's go. So we, boys' night out, monster trucks. And we didn't know anything about the stunts. And this truck was a woman driver. You probably remember that night, but maybe you don't, because maybe this is common, but to us it was not. It flipped over and landed on its roof. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, I'm like, do I need to hide my son's eyes here? Did we just see a tragedy? And this guy who's part of the crew casually strolls out.
Yep.
And he pokes his head in there, and he sees the driver, and they wave to each other. They come out, flip the truck over. It's no big deal. I mean, it's the stunts are amazing.
I want to say that's part of the show. I think every Monster Jam performance over the last several years that I've been a part of has had at least one, if not multiple, trucks flip over. Now, if they flip over and they go into the dasher boards, that's not part of the script. Okay. That's when they're getting a bill from me, because they just took out one of my dashers, and then it becomes a problem. But yeah, they'll flip over. I've seen them catch on fire before.
Oh my God.
Then they're a little bit more responsive to getting out there in more of a timely fashion. But it's an interesting show. There's not a lot of room, obviously. It's a short space, but what they are able to pull off in that short space is truly incredible. And you're right, you mentioned female driver.
Yeah.
This show that we've got coming up in later on in March this year has 3 female drivers, and one of them is actually a unicorn looking, I think it's called Sparkle Smash. It's really the first truck that I've ever seen that's 100% like dedicated towards the female audience, and it's a female driver. And I think it really kind of started with Kristen Anderson, who was the daughter of the legend Dennis Anderson driving Gravedigger. She really was one of them that was the pioneer of female drivers in their circuit. And like I said, this year we have 3 female drivers from what I saw on our roster sheet that are going to be there, which is the most female drivers we've ever had in a single Monster Jam performance. It's just showing how that sport has evolved.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I highly recommend checking that out. It's funny because a podcast can be very conversational. You just go with the flow. I was a big fan of the television show House. Remember House with you, Laurie?
Yep.
And he had a great relationship with his friend Wilson, the other doctor. It was so funny. He came into the hospital one day in the one episode, and he goes, "You want to go with me? I got tickets for monster trucks." And he's really excited. And he's like, "What?" He goes, "Monster trucks, And he's like, "We have to sign a waiver. We could get killed." Which is an exaggeration, of course.
Yep.
But you do see some pretty wild stuff. I love all those annual events that you have, Steve. look forward to, TSO and everybody coming back and the Globetrotters. Now, so you've got your Penguins as your house band, and then you've got these regulars throughout the year, and then on top of that are we just booked this person, and we've had some legendary comedians there. During my Times Leader days, I remember AC/DC, Bon Jovi, Janet Jackson, Cher, John Mellencamp, Prince, which that was really a surprise. Sting, the Simon and Garfunkel, the Eagles, who, that's a band that plays the Sphere residencies now. So many iconic artists have walked on that stage over the past 25 years. Is there anybody that stands out to you for any way at all, whether it because they were outstanding? You got to watch Elton John. He loved the venue. He opened a tour or two there. Judas Priest, I think, opened a tour there. I could go on and on. Stone Temple Pilots, ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner, Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow, Tony Bennett. I could just go on. I covered all these shows. Who stands out to you and why? Or a personal encounter where they were just so nice, or the opposite.
Well, just about everybody's been nice. In our line, it's very difficult to have a real connection with them, because if you're going to meet the artist, it's usually, hey, come say hi, show them give them a jersey, whatever, take a picture, and then you walk away. So getting involved in a heavy, detailed conversation is not something that we do a lot of. I think that Elton John was certainly fun to see. At the time, they just adopted their son at that point. And we gave him a jersey for the kid. So that was kind of cool. AC/DC is one that I'll always remember when they opened the Black Ice World Tour back in 2008 for a variety of reasons. I know that the Phillies were in the World Series that night, and I remember trying to go in between, trying to be our house photographer for the night and doing some work there.
That's exactly why I remember the Simon and Garfunkel show. I needed that baseball score, even though I was working.
So going in and out of that, but that show, I think I lost at least 15% of my hearing permanently that night. That was loud. But one of the earliest memories that I have, I was, as a college student at the time, I was a big Godsmack fan, and we'd done a promotion with one of the local radio stations to take the band to do a live appearance at someone's house. So I'm a marketing intern at the time, and I'm in the same car going to this house with Sully Erna.
Oh, man.
And I'm like trying not to geek out at that point. I'm like, I just want you to sing I Stand Alone right now for me all by myself, right? But so you're trying
Boston
to
accent too. Yeah, he has a big Boston accent.
Yep. So I'm trying to maintain my professionalism, because I'm maybe a couple weeks as an intern at that point. They were doing their tour was actually going to shoot their whole video, the whole DVD at the time was going to be live from our facility. So that was probably one of the earliest moments that I had, that I was in that starstruck moment. Mm-hmm. Like, my favorite artist is, I'm in the car with them right now. Like, holy crap, this is a pretty big deal. But they all kind of blur together after all these years.
Yeah.
There have been so many great experiences. I mean, having a quick chat with Steve Martin and Martin Short was kind of interesting. Some of the events that you get to have more of a experience with, like we talked about the Globetrotters, WWE. Like, these are shows that you're out doing PR efforts with them, and you have a chance to talk to them. You have a chance to connect with them. One of the examples I'll give is WWE. I'm riding around in doing PR efforts with one of their superstars at the time was Shelton Benjamin. And we're talking about Transformers. the show, the action figures. I'm sitting here talking with the Intercontinental Champion at the time about action figures in a limousine, and I'm maybe 3-4 years onto the job. And I'm like, well, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is wild.
But you don't get a lot of that opportunity in the arena lifestyle, because a lot of the times the artists, especially now, will come to the back. They'll be on their bus for the majority of the day. They'll get off the bus, they'll take their meet and greets, do whatever, and they'll perform and then get back on. And that's just the nature of the business. They meet thousands of people every day. But we've, for the most part, have had a lot of positive experiences. There's been one or two that I can remember that I'm not going to go into more detail about, but there's not always a great experience with every artist that comes to the facility. But I think from my standpoint, from a concert standpoint, I think that Godsmack moment for me was pretty cool.
Yeah, I interviewed Sully a couple of times. He's a neat guy.
Yeah,
and I want to thank you too, because there's one project that we worked on together, and I remember I always used to thank you in my column every year in the newspaper, because we used to do the charity concert every year called the Concert for a Cause at the Woodlands, and we had a rock auction. And so I would use my connections with the record business.
Yeah.
If there was someone coming into town around the concert to get something for the auction. So there's two occasions I could think of. Well, no, there was more than that. We had Matchbox 20. But the two I remember specifically working with you was Elton John and John Mellencamp.
Yeah.
And we got local Best Buy to donate, I think it was a Casio. He needed a specific brand because he had an endorsement. Mm-hmm. And then for Mellencamp, we had a guitar from Rock Street Music. Yeah. So I work all that out with the artist's management, and then I get the donated instrument. But that doesn't do me any good if I don't have anybody to actually facilitate the signing, and that's where I would turn to you. Yeah. And you always got that done, and that resulted in a lot of money for good causes. And I just wanted to thank you for delivering the keyboard to Elton. And I think I remember you telling me the story that he was waiting for it, that he said, is that the keyboard? Yeah. You know, I was waiting for that, or something like that. Yeah. And so that was something that I still appreciate to this day.
Oh, you're very welcome. Happy to help out wherever I could. And most of those times we've had success. There have been some opportunities where it's not gone as well, but I'm happy that these specific requests we were all able to take care of.
Yeah, they were beautiful items too. Yeah. I think Pat Verastro from LT Verastro got both of those. He used to love that auction. He would bid on them, and he's got some sort of hard rock cafe in his house, from what I heard, that's pretty outstanding. Yeah. And a couple of those items came from the arena. So, it's hard to believe that at one point there was opposition to it. And we talked a little bit about that last year during your anniversary year. And I was on the committee for the anniversary, and we had some great meetings where people were just sharing some stories. And of course we had that beautiful night at the arena too, where we had the celebration. But and I could tell you that where we are sitting right now, exactly in this spot, in this room, is where the bar used to be at Market Street Square when it was a nightclub. And I did the guest bartending here in '95, and I donated all of my money to Arena Yes, because I was very, very, and I wrote editorials about it. And I had this moment when we first moved into this building, I may have told you about, where we were decorating the lobby, and it was our first couple of days in the building. Mm-hmm. And I was up on a ladder out here in the lobby, hanging up a beautiful framed poster of the arena, 15 feet from where, 25 years earlier, I had been trying to do everything I could in my little way to get it done. I was not alone. There was a major effort with the arena. Yes, that's just my little, peon contribution to it. But it's a personal story that means a lot to me. And I think about it sometimes, the irony of being in this building and putting all of your events out on our billboard. And this is the room where I tried to help you get it done all those years ago. When you think back to the opposition, though, Steve, And then you look at the economic impact that that building has had, not only for the arena and the people that work there, but that entire area has now been developed. There was no arena hub for all of you folks that might be a little bit younger and are familiar with Luzerne County. That whole area where you have Best Buy and Lowe's and Barnes & Noble and Dick's Sporting Goods was not there. Yeah. The Walmart Plaza was not there. Yep. All of that, all those restaurants, all those hotels up there, all came from this building that some people didn't want to build.
Yep.
Is the irony of that not lost? I mean, you know, what are your thoughts on that? The economic impact of the. We don't really have to get into all those people. You were wrong. That's all we really have to say. We don't have to get into it. You were wrong. We were right. Goodbye. Yeah. And half those people, you know, they have enjoyed events at the arena. Yeah. You know that were the Fred Williamses of the world, and so forth, the talk show host at the time. But that economic impact. It's such a huge part for Wilkes-Barre Township, for the county, for the entire region. You know, what are your thoughts on that whole crazy time?
Well, to go back to what you're saying about economic impact, we just had a study done off of our 2023 event season, and our economic impact over that year was over $50 million. So significant. We had that study was done by the Institute, who have done some for others, including the Kirby Center recently. So that right there stands alone of what the significant impact is. For me personally, you know, I'm growing up at that time, 95, 96. I'm 12, 13 years old. You know, I look at it and say, I have no impact, no knowledge of what this is going to mean as far as things that are going to be here. All I know is if they build this thing, there's a hockey team coming. Yeah. That I like this hockey team. I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan since the early 90s, and I know that if there's an arena that's built here, this team's going to play here. So I'm excited at that point. I have no vote. I have no influence at that point, real influence at least, on what that ends up being. So I think, you know, fast forward now, nearly 27 years later, that the building is under construction, all that, and now we've proven to the community that it's a success. And again, at that time, a lot of unknown. There had never been an arena built in Luzerne County. Obviously, it's easy to say something's going to fail when it costs money. So I don't necessarily fault those folks that had those strong opinions when you're not really knowledgeable about it. But I think that enough time has passed now that I envision a lifestyle where now I look at it and say, I love the fact that my kids and hopefully their kids someday will be able to appreciate the things that this area has and never look at an opportunity through such a negative lens. Think of the opportunities, don't think about the immediate impact and the immediate cost. There's going to be bumps and roadblocks in the way every step of the way, but think about what it can do for a community. And there's no bigger proof than that exit off of Interstate 81, exit 168. You come off there right now, and as you said, none of that was there.
It wasn't.
The arena's there, the development of Walmart, Target, the entire Arena Hub Plaza. It's all incredible for what that means, not only from a economic impact study, but quality of life. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that are going to stay in this region now because of things like the arena. You know, the baseball team brought a lot of that back in the 80s that wasn't available to them. I can't imagine myself living in an environment now. I've been born and raised in NEPA. I can't believe a situation where we never had that. And you know, I think that's the page we're turning right now. Is my kids are not going to know a situation where the arena never existed,
right? And
I hope they never have to realize a situation where there isn't one there,
right?
So constant development, investment into these things in our community are going to keep people wanting to stay here, and it's just been an incredible journey. Not only with the arena, but everything in Luzerne County has just taken a better turn, and I think it's becoming more of a desired place to plant your flag and say, I'm not leaving.
And it's a facility built for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about a younger generation that might not remember not having it. About 2 weeks ago, Kyle and I, who was producing the podcast, we were over in the Kingston Armory doing some work for our Babe Ruth event that we do in Kirby Park. And we had to walk through the Armory to get on the field. And so we're walking through the Armory in the middle of the day, and it's empty. And yeah, I told Kyle, I said, I saw Alice Cooper here, I saw this guy here, and he's like, oh, what was that like? I'm like, it's terrible. The ceiling's glass. I mean, it's horrible sound. It's a great place for soldiers to do what they need to do and park army tanks, and it's an artillery building. Yep. But
not a concert venue.
It was not a concert venue. And so this is what people were trying to do before we had the arena.
Yeah.
You know, that to still, we could get 2,000 people in there. Let's try it. You know. Yeah. Not good. No. And so now we have, thankfully, for 26 years now, the wonderful arena. You're always investing. You're always improving. You know, it's the same building that it was in '99, but it's like anything, it needs upkeep. It needs care. Yeah. Technologies change. The concourse now is, I mean, there's that private suite bar, more venues, more shops, parking lots always upgraded, sound systems and so forth. You know, the challenges, I guess, of maintaining a building like that are ongoing.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about how that happens and how you meet those challenges to always make sure that you're right where you want to be?
Yeah. So right now, over the last 3 or 4 years, the main focus of the facility has been invested in the building's HVAC systems. So whole new air conditioning system put in the building. You know, a lot of behind the scenes project. One of the big ones was last summer we put in a floor chiller. 99.9% of people will never be able to appreciate that, but it was a $4 million project. And what that ensures is that we can keep the floor cold to keep the ice in the building. So obviously from my marketing background, I want to invest in things that the general public is going to see and appreciate. The HVAC system is not something that they will see and appreciate unless it's a summer day in the facility and it's 90 degrees outside. You want to make sure that the building is a nice crisp 65 for the graduations when they're coming in. So a lot of those projects have happened over the last 3 or 4 years, but in that time frame we did develop a new bar at Center Ice, not at Center Ice, but at the end of the building in section 110.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That was all put together by our very talented operations staff. They did a great job. It looks like you're inside of inside of an igloo almost. It's called On the Rocks. We put the LED ribbon board in and the Wi-Fi system in the building in 2019. Had it for the ribbon board we had for about 6 months, and then COVID hit. The Wi-Fi system, they actually completed that during COVID. So we were looking at options to say, how are we going to really test this? We only have like maybe 20, 30 people in the building at any given time. How can we really test the bandwidth of the system? So that was almost 2 years until that project was really completed. We could check it with people being in the building. But you're right, like parking lot, those are things that are big ticket items that have to be done every couple of years. So a lot of the investment that the money that the facility is making on the various food and beverage services, ticket fees, all those kind of things, those are all getting invested back into the facility. It's an expensive upkeep. Our electric bill is
I bet.
put a lot of people over at this point, but it's a significant upkeep. There are things that are on the target list for the future. Sometimes we'll look for various grant funding, look for our political support to be able to keep funding projects like this, because we're not just a concert venue, we're not just a hockey venue, we're not just family shows. We host graduations, we host religious ceremonies, we host political events. So there's a lot of activity that happens up there. And one of the things that I'm really honored to welcome here in the next month is we work with the Commission on Economic Opportunity, who will once again be having their Thanksgiving food distribution in our parking lot. So you think about the upkeep of that is going to allow for hundreds of people to be able to go up there that need some help around this time of year. They'll be able to go and pick up their meals right there with limited traffic congestion because of the size of our parking lot. So it's projects like that the general public may never really know about, but have significant impact on our community. But there's just not a big press release put out or a big ticket that's being sold to really emphasize the point that something's going on. There's a lot of smaller events that a lot of people just don't know that happen at our facility, but mean a lot to the community.
Absolutely. And that's important, to be engaged in the community. And it's funny, I didn't even think about that when we were talking about all the great athletes that have walked through the doors, or the entertainers that have been on stage, but a couple of United States presidents as well. And so obviously just a place that has so much potential to accommodate so many different types of events, from monster trucks to it was President Bush on the 2004 campaign, I believe, was there. I think President Trump was there as well. 25 years, 26, an amazing history, which we've talked in pretty much extensive detail about. Moving forward, my last question for you, what can we expect on the horizon, even if it's something that you might want to share with us coming up over the next couple of months?
Well, that is the wonder of this industry. I have to leave everybody guessing, right? We've got a lot of shows that are already on the books. Coming up in November, we will have NEPA's own Motionless in White returning to the facility for Apocalypse Fest on November 13th. We will have the return of Trans-Siberian Orchestra November 22nd. All Time Low will be at the facility on November 29th. And WWE making their return. That was a lot more difficult. The product has just grown by leaps and bounds over the last year or two, so we will be very fortunate to have them in the building in December.
They like your building. They did some national broadcasts from your building, right?
We just ran the numbers on this the other day. This will be the 26th or 27th televised show that they've done in our facility throughout our history. So a big win. I think the proximity to the interstate and our ability for on-site parking really helps with the TV production. That's why we get the shows so much. Plus the fans, they're just very supportive. They've sold it out numerous times, so that's always been a success. Then outside of the normal events that we've talked about, we do have comedian Bert Kreischer coming in April. And I do have a lot of holds right now for 2026 that I can't divulge at this point, but keep checking our website for more information at MoheganArenaPA.com or visit Luzerne County.
Yeah.
And you'll be posting those events for us as well to keep everybody informed. But one of the events that I'm the most proud of is the PIAA District 2 high school basketball championships. I worked with that committee back in 2015-16 to start that opportunity for those players to play at our facility. So beyond graduations, you're getting students, whether they're an athlete, they're a cheerleader, they're the student body, getting a chance to come up and see the facility. Because if you're a high school student, maybe the content that we're bringing in isn't appealing to you at the time. If you're not a fan of Disney on Ice, you're not a hockey fan, you're looking at it and saying, well, what's in it for me? And I will admit, our venue and our market sometimes struggle to get certain acts, especially in pop world. So if you're a fan of that genre of music and you're not graduating our facility, you may have never experienced it. But now if you're following your high school and they're going to play at our facility, you're coming up there for the first time.
Yeah. And
we're drawing from a 6-county radius that these students are playing in. And it really, I'm proud of the efforts that our team has put in there to ensure that was able to come. And it gives them the opportunity to play on a big stage if the team doesn't qualify to go all the way to Hershey and play at the Giant Center, that they have the opportunity to still play at a big time arena for a district championship game, knowing that they've got 4 or 5 more games to play after that before they get to another arena. And it's really been remarkable and really well received in the community.
And isn't that wonderful that you singled that out as one of the events that you're the most proud of? Mm-hmm. Because that's that kid at Misericordia
Yep.
who decided, I want to, particularly originally sports events,
Yep.
putting those together.
Yep.
And now here you are doing it at the highest level with a major tournament at one of the crown jewels of your entire home community.
Yep.
And so you made it.
Yep.
And
It's all come full circle there.
It did come. And we appreciate you and your team and everything that you do for Northeastern Pennsylvania. And it's been a pleasure to have you here, Steve. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, and Alan, it's been a pleasure working with you, and so much for you've done, and congratulations on the recent induction, the Luzerne County Arts and Entertainment Hall of Fame.
Thank you
Very
very
well
much.
deserved. You've meant so much to this community, from all of your travels, Times Leader, to here now. Exceptional job, and I appreciate everything you've done for our facility and our community over these past 20 plus years.
Thank you very much. And again, upcoming events, go to the URL. You want to shoot a shout?
MoheganArenaPA.com.
And we always share them on our social media, on our website. And if you're driving by the train station, we have a lot of them right out on the billboard. So get up to the arena this winter and have a great time. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.